is because, well, we are now able to set aside all the stories that we told ourselves, all the expectations that we took on, other people's expectations, all the roles that we stepped into quite unconsciously from childhood. So we have with the maiden phase, we had the phase prepubescent, where yes, most of it was joyful and carefree and all the rest of it. For some it's not, and it wasn't. And that we indeed, even in the best of circumstances, still picked up some stories along the way about ourselves and the world around us that probably has not served us in later years, but we've clung on to them and we've defined our lives around them. And then you had the mother phase, the fertile phase, whether you became a mother or didn't become a mother, but it's that phase of our life where we're definitely plugged in to the cycles of the moon with our periods. And it's that generative stage that we're particularly then absolutely focused on the welfare of others, the rules and obligations and duties towards them, be it a job, be it family. And there's nothing wrong with that, obviously not. But now we get to go, this is our time. We are now in a stage where if we've had kids, for many of us, they've grown, they've left home. My daughter's now married. For some who started a little bit later in having their children, they may well have young children in this phase of life. That'll be an interesting energetics for them. They still are entering their crone wisdom phase, even though they're active mothering. And so what will be interesting about that for those women is how to mother from a position of wisdom. And it is hopefully, if there is mindful wisdom in their mothering because of embracing their actual crone phase, their sacred crone energy, they may well indeed experience mothering in a more aligned, effective, joyful, unconditional love kind of way than the mothers who were young of age when they were doing the mothering. This is what I'm hopeful of. So even if you are actively mothering young dependent children and you're 40, 45, 46, 47, 48, early 50s, you are still going through your crone phase, entering into it. Perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. This is the crone phase. And for some women, they've entered perimenopause in their 30s. But this is the phase. And this is the energy. And so last week in our Sacred Crone story time, we were looking at chapter 1 of Jean Shanola Boland's book, Crones Don't Whine. And the first chapter was, well, what does that mean? What is a crone? A lot of us think wicked witches and hags and all that kind of terminology, and it's generally considered derogatory and insulting. And the truth of the matter is, there was a time before Disney, there was a time before the medieval period where the witch and the crone and the hag, the old witch, the hag, and the crone was a title of honor, because the whole community, including men, turned to the wise woman, the hag, the crone, for the lineage stories of their tribe, for the laws of their tribe, for the healing of their tribe. It's only in Western post-Christianity and then onwards time that we have been seeing the rapid erosion, bit by bit, of the stories of women and the healing of women. The women's healings were always tied to the cycles. We are intimately tied to the cycles of nature. We bleed with the moon. I mean, it's just, this is how we work. And the healing, I've got a wonderful book on my shelf called Italian folk magic, and it's all about the kitchen magic of Italian women pre-Christianity, and even to a degree post-Christianity. They still kept a hold of some of their traditions as best as they could within around the hearth. And the thing is, it's all to do with healing. You know, we reach for chemical-based medicine, like artificial chemical-based medicine these days. But before then, they used, you know, herbs and plants and minerals and all the rest of it from natural sources, and then combine them with prayers and, yes, indeed, incantations and affirmations and the wonderful traditions that are attached to healing. That's the Western tradition. You've also obviously got the Asian tradition as well, with China with the or India with the Ayurveda, and China obviously with the Qi and that. So for me, I inform myself in all areas. I kind of have a bit of everything, and I love it. I was reading last night about we've got seven chakras, and that the sacral chakra is in fact, so that's in the pelvic area, it's just sitting behind our womb, and that is the engine room for women, in fact, is our sacral chakra, not our root chakra. It's the sacral chakra, because it's all about creation. It's all about joy and creation. And our wombs, in fact, energetically, are micro-universes. I mean, we're miraculous beings, seriously. Not only can we house life and potentially and birth it, but we are also energetically the engine for limitless universal creation, energetic creation. This is all from our womb area. So focusing in and doing some meditating on our sacral chakra, so the yellowy orange color, and doing lovely meditations there at all stages of our womanhood is really important. Yes, it is particularly tied to, it's also tied to sexuality. So it's tied to our reproductive system, and it's tied to sexuality, it's tied to creativity. It's the engine space from which we get our instincts coming up from in there. That's where our knowing, our gnosis arises from. Also, apparently, chakra, energetic-wise, third eye, which is here, not in the middle of your forehead. The third eye is a place of insight. So doing some breathing through there and doing some wonderful meditation through there. And then the crown chakra being tied to the high priestess, which is, you know, the healer, the shaman. And so as a woman coming into her third phase of life, particularly focusing on aligning with, unblocking, energizing those three chakra points in particular is really an important thing to do. And I'll actually be looking at creating some guided meditations for that in the near future. I'm excited about that. It's all part and parcel of the joyfulness that I'm having in creating the action plan, the activities that come with awakening the crone. I've got all the theory under my belt, and the stories of transformation and the results-based stories that I have of myself and other people. But as I am building out for the 3-day workshop that's coming up, looking forward to that. I'll be doing the event pages for that very soon. We will be having a 3-day free workshop, May 25th through to the 28th, and I am talking around this awaken the joy within, embrace your sacred crone. So looking at how that awakening, the 6 steps, how you can jump into your Crone life. So I'm just unpacking that. And I'm really excited. I was reading some fabulous stuff last night. So I'm looking forward to, after this live unpacking some of the activities, because I really want it just to be action oriented and less, less theoretical and far more action oriented, so that you can all get little tastes of being in your wisdom space. So the excitement for that. And that's all leading up to a little taste of that 3-day workshop, is the little taste of what the upcoming beta 7-week program is all about. And that's going to be launching on the 7th. And so I am just excited. I am looking forward to bringing in 10 to 15 at the most women who are ready to take some responsibility for the lives that they have led, let it all go, and start making decisions now in the present moment from their wisdom, rather than from their limited intellect or their ego thinking. That is going to, for them, step them towards a fulfilling, passionate, unapologetically authentic, juicy third phase of life. Believe me, being a crone does not mean that you're dried up and shriveled and raisin-like and all the rest of it, all that yucky terminology that has been often given about women who are no longer having periods. It's like, oh, well, the period stops and now I'm all dried out. No, that's not the case. And certainly not the case energetically. In fact, this is our juicy time, our moist and flowing time energetically, because it's our time for us. And it's just that it is a time to go in, it is a time to reflect, and it's a time to birth our wisdom in the form of whatever it is that comes out, whatever it is that is our passion. It may not be a physical child, but we never stop bringing into existence from formlessness. That's what bring a human into the world is, but we do that with every other part of our life as well. So what is it that you want to bring into the world from the formless? What is it that you want to nurture and love and grow with and give to the world? What is that? It's now your time. It's your time to do that. It's a beautiful space to be in when you make that decision to not give a crap what people are thinking and saying or doing, or expectations. Everyone's going to be doing their own thing. Everyone's always been doing their own thing. And sometimes people do things that we don't approve of. Sometimes people do things that are actually, actively harmful. But we don't have to get really caught up in it. We don't have to get all agitated and militant and judgmental and, militantly setting boundaries out of fear that if we don't do those things, then we won't be okay. We don't have to. We can, when we are in our firm wisdom, when we're okay within ourselves and aligned, then what seems to happen is the people doing the shit outside, whatever that is, however annoying it might be, we are actually able to hold space for them. We don't approach them with fear. We don't approach them with annoyance. We're able to simply just go, this is what they're doing. Maybe it's not a good or helpful thing. We generally approach them with a curiosity and asking, well, what's going on for them, instead of making assumptions. And then we are able to respond in the present moment in the best way we can from our inner wisdom. And often doing that from a space of open-heartedness means that a third way that we may not have imagined was possible arises. I used to be very much into protest, both physically and in awareness raising. And I've understood now that though, of course, there are injustices, there is oppression, and absolutely, of course, we need to do what we can in the face of it. But railing against injustice and protest and saying what's missing and saying why you're pissed off and saying all that stuff energetically does not allow for change to happen. Everyone is just too busy caught in defensiveness and judgment and anger, and change doesn't come from there. And change based on unconditional love and sort of radiant, expansive, universal possibility and knowing, that requires that you actually not be in your head but in your wisdom. And by default, our wisdom is one of love. It's one of unconditional love. The conditional love where we say, I love that person because, I love my kids because, I love my husband because, or wife because, that's conditional. And it's from that condition that we then get caught up in right and wrong, and we get caught up in expectations and then start defending them or judging others who don't follow them. But our inner core nature is in fact not our thinking. Our inner core nature is completely separate to that ego thinking. Our inner core nature is spirit. Our inner core nature is the unconditional love of the universe. We are in the present moment, when we are in our Crone wisdom, when we're in our heartful, wholehearted, open-hearted wisdom, what happens is we become a vessel of the love that is the universe. And we connect to the others around us from that energy level. And when we all connect from that energy level and are responding confidently from our wisdom in the present moment, miraculous options can't become available to us, options that we couldn't have thought of if we were just stuck in our thinking and coming at it from that ego perspective. And the beautiful thing is we don't actually have to change people. We don't have to change situations in order for us to present from that wholehearted perspective. And I've learnt that in relation to my dad. I talked quite a lot about my difficult relationship with my dad. And when I understood that my thinking was what was causing my experience, and that a lot of my thinking about him and thinking about what it all meant was actually inaccurate at best, I was able to bit by bit let it go and just show up in the present moment. I was able to catch myself having the dress rehearsal in my mind before going to family gatherings. And of course the dress rehearsal was all negative. And then I'd be setting myself up with, anxious feelings. And then I'd take that anxiety and I'd be all armored up and ready to go into battle. That was what like going to family lunches was for me for quite some time, a sense of going into battle. I mean, how can anyone ever expect to have close connection and relationships and a positive experience if you're going into battle? It doesn't work like that. But the thing is, the war was in my head. It really wasn't from his side. Yes, he did some, contrary things. My dad has been known over the years to, do some odd things, say some inconsistent things, give with one hand and take with another. Yeah, that's his story, absolutely. It's a fact. I'm not denying the physical reality of things. I'm not denying the physical reality of the two abusive husbands being physically abusive. You can't. I'm not saying that there isn't a physical world out there and people doing stuff. But they're doing stuff because of the story in their head about themselves and their world and the world they've created. They're not actually doing it to you directly. And we're not doing it either directly. We're not responding to them directly. We're responding to the meaning we have given about them and the things happening. And so we're all wandering around the world doing this. This is how it is, until you have some awareness. And that's the first step in the AWAKEN model of joyful living that I came up with in February, is awareness. Awareness of what all this is, the mechanics of our experience, and understanding that we are spirit beings. We are not the sum of the stories in our heads and the events that have happened to us. Storytelling is great. I love storytelling. But we aren't actually the characters in that story. It's just a story, you know. Then with that understanding that we are not the story in our heads, we understand then we are wisdom beings. This is where we tap into the unlimited, expansive, radiant, all-knowing answers of the universe. They're available to us in the present moment from our wisdom. And we access our wisdom by simply being in the present moment. And we're being in the present moment by simply not getting stuck in the storytelling. A thought will pop in our head, but if you don't latch on with story and meaning, it pops in and it goes away. We have tens of thousands of thoughts and emotions. So the thought pops in and an emotion arises, and they both just go back out again. And that's how it flows. This is the way, the mechanics of our experience. So if you don't attach a whole lot of story to it, be it reliving the past or worrying about the future in the present moment, then you are by default in the present moment. And that space in the present moment is where our wisdom arises. And we don't have to worry about stuff, because when we arrive in that future moment in the present, if we're in that state of present awareness and accessing our wisdom, then we know that we are tapping into the unlimited, radiant truth of the universe, so that we know that whatever arises within us is going to be right. It's going to be correct. We don't have to worry. It's going to be right for that moment. Even if we don't understand the how, even if we don't logically know all the, myriad interconnections or the future or how it all fits together, just know that what arises from your universal wisdom, your Crone wisdom, it's the right answer. So appreciation is the third step in awakening your joy. Appreciating this truth is one of them. I love it. I love knowing now that I don't have to freak out. I don't have to worry. I don't have to pre-plan. I was a big pre-planner before, having copious notes and all this sort of practice and trying to logic my way through life. But now I don't have to. And even just this morning, okay, I thought I was live. I was chatting away for 20 minutes. It said live, and then it wasn't. Well, that's okay. I just ended it and came back on again, and here I'm talking to you again. Some of what I'm saying to you now is stuff that I said then, but it's not verbatim. It's not exact, because I don't have notes. I'm just talking to you. That is so liberating, knowing that when I'm just in my wisdom flow and don't get caught, stuck in my head, that everything that I know that I will say the thing that I need to say. Maybe it won't be perfect. Maybe it won't be, slick and all the rest of it. But it's the right thing. And someone who will be listening to it, it'll be what they need to hear. So we've done awareness of the truth of our experience. We've done wisdom. We've done appreciating. Now, appreciation, one other thing that I wanted to say about it, is appreciation not just for the good stuff. I know that absolutely it is totally important to have your gratitude journal. I love doing that. I love, thinking, wake up in the morning and thinking of 5 things that you were grateful for, or doing it at night, or that kind of thing. Trying your very best to be in the present moment with something and really appreciating it. Absolutely. Take that moment, take that time, not get caught up in your head, but just simply be in that moment and appreciating being in that moment. Absolutely do as much of that as possible. But what's also important is appreciating the things that we think are not so good. I was talking to Rose yesterday on my wall on one of my posts, and we're back and forward about pain. I also, yeah, definitely have spent the majority of my adult life in chronic illness, major injury, and pain. And the thing is, while I was focused on a life without pain, so everything would be fine once I'm not in pain, and then putting all my focus in trying to rid the pain, um, naturally the approach was one of aversion. It's like, this thing is bad, pain is bad, I want to get rid of it, hating on it, that whole thing, frustration, annoyance, all the rest of it just worries me. Now, when I stopped putting that energy into the pain, when I actually appreciated what pain was telling me that I was not functioning in my body. I was not taking my body seriously. I wasn't looking after it. I was behaving in ways that were not helpful to my body. Maybe I wasn't resting. Maybe I wasn't drinking enough water. Maybe I was moving in a way that was injuring it, that kind of thing. Or maybe I was allowing myself to stay in a situation that let other people hurt my body and cause pain. So the pain then became my friend. Rather than imagining a life, making plans, my life will be really happy when I'm not in pain. What I began to do is make plans including my pain involved. So that might well have meant that had I envisaged a particular, going on holiday or achieving a certain goal, whatever it was, prior to pain being my friend, I'd be making those sort of plans and dreams where pain wasn't included, even if that seems impossible to happen. And naturally, the me that was making plans where pain wasn't included, funnily enough, those plans had me really pushing myself, had me extending myself and exerting myself to a degree that probably wasn't healthy. So even if I had not been in pain, I would be afterwards. So including in my life vision, my joyful life vision, including pain as a friend and a companion on that journey, what it means is that I get to appreciate what it's telling me. I get to appreciate taking care of myself and taking care of pain in the process of going about and fulfilling my dreams and hopes and goals. And guess what? The strategy for sort of going about doing that is a lot kinder to me than it would be had I not had the pain, because I need to slow things down. I need to factor in an extra bit of time. I need to factor in an extra day off. I need to factor in the odd days where my energy might be a bit lower. I need to factor in doing things differently with a different level of energy. And what that has ultimately done, when I've appreciated the difficulties in life that come up instead of running away from them, is that I actually understand now that everything is for my benefit. Not just the inverted commas good stuff. And in fact, to be quite honest, more often than not, the losses and the difficulties are of greater benefit to us than getting the things we think we want. So appreciation is so important in our lives to live joyfully. and not to separate only appreciating the inverted commas good stuff. Appreciate your whole life wholeheartedly. Kindness, as I was mentioning in the taking, part of the appreciating the pain and living with it as a friend, is actually realizing kindness to myself. Absolutely, kindness to other people is also an important thing, but really the joy comes from kindness to oneself first. And Lord knows I have not been all that kind to myself over the years. I certainly understand that my lack of kindness to myself was at root the one of the major factors for choosing difficult, toxic marriages, because I wasn't kind to myself. I invited their unkindness because I wasn't kind to me. How can I expect someone else to be kind to me if I'm not kind to me? So kindness is a really, really important factor in joyful living. So knowing and looking each day, part of the appreciation part of your day, and your wisdom part and your awareness part, what are you doing that's kind to yourself? How are you being loving? And indeed being kind to other people. That's also energetically very important as well. You can't go run around being assholes to everyone and expect the universe to flow nicely. It just doesn't kind of work like that. But when we are in the present moment with our inner wisdom, even if people are doing really crappy things around us, it doesn't mean that we have to be crappy in return. We can still show a kindness to them while also requiring that they take some responsibility for their behavior or change their behavior in some way. But they're not ever going to change through unkindness. If we deal with people that we perceive are not doing what we want, if we respond to that with judgment and or defensiveness and unkindness, you can absolutely guarantee that no correction will be had. We need to connect heart to heart, spirit to spirit at that level. And when we're in our present moment wisdom state, we are then vessels of love. Love is the universal energy and it flows through us, you know, when we're not caught in the stories that separate us. And that's a beautiful thing. Then you've got equanimity. That was the fifth step to joyful living. Equanimity is understanding that you're okay even if shit's hitting the fan. Equanimity is being okay when things aren't okay. And, you know, life is more often than not okay. Change is not okay. We don't handle it well at all. But what I've understood over the last few years, even when my outer world looked quite unstable, or money wasn't coming in, or a job wasn't happening, or my relationship with my dad was heated, I was okay. And the only time I'm not okay is when I'm telling myself that. When I have a story in my head about what's going on that is telling me that I'm not okay. But that's not the truth. I am okay. And I've been brought to the brink of homelessness twice now in the last few years. And believe me, I've had those fears. I've had that worry about the next dollar coming in and how it's all going to work. But everything in the end did work out. When you're open in the present moment to solutions arising instead of trying to think your way. I mean, when I was all focused in my head about, well, how am I going to make this happen? And I've got to do this or I've got to do that. And my thinking became more fearful and more constricted and less, spontaneous and less creative, because this is what thinking does, particularly when thinking gets scary. We can't come up with that out of the box kind of solution from our thinking. That out of the box solution comes from our wisdom. So the best approach in moments of trial and tribulation and all the rest of it is not to get caught in your head, but to respond in the present moment. Allow for that spaciousness to happen. Allow for that hope to still be accessed, and know that in the present moment the answer will arise. You'll have the right response. And you may not know how it's all going to play out, but whatever arises in that moment will be the right answer. And you don't have to worry about how it all makes sense. Just know that it does. And everything that I have been talking about today brings us to the sixth element, the sixth step. All these steps, all these elements, they're all interconnected. As you can see, as I've been explaining them to you, this model of joyful living, they build upon each other. They are interwoven with each other. You really can't have one without the other. It's all part and parcel of the experience, the wisdom experience. And the final is N for now. It's being in the present. Everything comes down to that being in the present. Now, the beautiful thing about being in the present, something that I had not realized in the first 20 odd years of adulthood, where I was doing my yoga and doing my meditation and doing all the rituals to get present. I was trying to do being present. I was chasing that mindfulness. But the thing is, we don't have to do anything to be present. All those things are fun and they're great to do and they're healthful, and you might as well do that as opposed to something else. But the present is eternally existent. It is it's happening regardless of whether you're paying attention to it or not. You don't need to do a fancy ritual to get there. It's simply not being caught in the stories in your head, be they past or future. And but in saying that, for those who don't know, have never done that, they just really can't see how they can separate themselves from their thoughts and the story they're telling themselves. I do have a really gorgeous offer. It is Tap Into Your True Self guided meditation with a 30-minute clarity session. I will put the link to that above or below, or I think I'll put it in the comments of the video, because I think Facebook doesn't really like links in the headers of things, apparently. I don't know. So but it's a fabulous little offer. I absolutely love it. And the Miraculous May offer it's $44, and it's valued at several hundred, but it's for you for Miraculous May, it's $44, and I love it. It's my guided meditation that walks you through how to set aside your past thing, your future worry, your story of self. And it gives you a moment to actually taste what it is to be free of your conceptual thinking. And then you've got a 30-minute session with me where you can unpack what that means, what has arisen as a result of tapping into your wisdom. What next? So I'm looking forward to working with any of my beautiful sacred crones in that offer if they want to take part of it, because the May offer will end at the end of May. So that's Awaken. Awareness, wisdom, appreciation, kindness, equanimity, being okay when the shit hits the fan, knowing you're okay, and being in the now. Those 6 elements of joy, they are intertwined, and when we embody those elements, when we live by those elements in the present moment, that gives us the opportunity to access our crone wisdom, so that we can then create the passionate, juicy, purposeful, unapologetic, kick-ass life that we want. No expectations, no fears, no judgments, no need to defend, no need to militantly set boundaries, no need to be worrying about controlling everyone around you to do what you think that they need to do in order for you to be okay. Absolutely, if you're in physical harm, or anyone you know is in physical harm, absolutely do your best to get removed from that. Our universal birthright is one to be, safe. Kindness to self, kindness to others. These are all part of the universal contract for flow and all the rest of it. So I'm not at all saying don't change a wrong circumstance. Absolutely. Seek help to remove yourself from harm. Don't harm other people. Don't actively harm other people. Absolutely. We're not going to be living an aligned life if that's going on. But even with the need to remove from physical harm, when we do it from a space of open-hearted wisdom, we don't get caught up in all that story in our head that, oh, why did this happen to me? Why did I choose this? Oh, why did they do it? Analyzing the past, worrying about the future, all that stuff, all that extra layer of storytelling that often keeps us trapped in our shitty situations far longer than we need to be. But basically understand that even if shitty stuff is happening, it is our story that we tell of it that is causing our suffering. And we can just let that go. We can understand that we're caught in a story. Now, I mean, what definitely kept me in my toxic marriages longer than I needed to be, and in sort of then in a situation where I was being physically harmed and emotionally harmed and spiritually harmed and all the rest of it. But what kept me there was the story of self that I had, the story of other that I had, and the way I was explaining it. And because I wasn't explaining it in a way that was kind to myself, that I was making excuses for them, and that and I had all these expectations that I had. Well, you've got to stay married, you've got to do the best you can, and it's all that stuff, all those ridiculous beliefs that we just pile on ourselves that keep us stuck in situations that we otherwise, had we set the thinking aside and just responded to what is exactly in front of us from our wisdom, we'd leave situations that were painful. We'd leave toxic and harmful situations a hell of a lot quicker without having to guilt ourselves out or guilt them out or explain anything or change them. We'd just leave because it's the wisdom thing to do. So I love that. I love knowing that I can approach life, both the good things that are happening and the good things I'm creating, but also the crappy things that are happening that may be out of my control. But how I respond to it is within my control. And how I show up in response to it, that is definitely in my control. And it's far better to show up from your Crone wisdom than from your ego thinking. So that's the AWAKEN model. And that will be the basis of what I do with you, how it unfolds. Now, the beautiful thing with the AWAKEN model is you're certainly not going to have to be, dredging up all the past and dealing, reanalyzing and rehashing the stories. You don't have to get caught up in what ifs and how am I going to make things happen. We get to dream about what we want without worrying about the how. The how takes care of itself in the present moment. And I love that. And I've seen that happening more and more. And I love that so much because it is the truth. And so when we just do what our wisdom tells us to do, the steps of how to make that thing happen, they just unfold. Just keep responding to each present moment with wisdom, step by step by step. And then you find yourself with this dream that you had unfolded, and probably in a way that you didn't even imagine was possible. So there you go. So this is for my beautiful women who are ready to take responsibility for their lives, which starts with letting go of all those stories that we carried with us that told us that we did this and we did that and it was bad and all the rest of it. The first is the letting go of it, understanding it doesn't serve us, So that is your lot for today.